Judge, the next witness to give evidence before the inquiry is Tiernan O'Ruairc. Now, you're Tiernan O'Ruairc, King of Breifne, isn't that the case?
I am.
And you were married to Dervorgilla, and that was an arranged marriage. Isn't that the case?
The marriage was arranged by our father, the King of Meath, to assist in keeping peace in our territories.
And what's your relationship with the High King?
He is the most powerful king in Ireland, and as such he has my support.
And is it not the case that in 1128, when Diarmuid MacMurrough was 18 years of old, you led an attack on his territory in Leinster?
I was asked by the High King, Rory O'Connor, to lead the attack, to remind MacMurrough, a young king, that there was a greater king in Ireland.
And you've previously stated that your wife was kidnapped by Diarmuid MacMurrough. Is that the case?
It is so.
And did Diarmuid pay you the honour price as required by Breton law?
He did not.
We've already heard from another witness that he did in fact pay that price, albeit in a delayed fashion. But are you now denying that that payment was made?
He left my honour slighted for 14 years before that. So no, I do not believe the man's honour can be restored so easily.
Very good. You might answer any questions my friends have.
Yes, Mr. Harmon?
Yes, Judge. Can you tell us your opinion of Diarmuid MacMurrough?
He's a brutal man, both on and off the battlefield, known for his many barbarous acts. A man who can order the rape of an abbess of the most important congregation of women in Ireland is capable of anything. Have you heard how in his campaign in Ossory, with his hardened mercenaries, he called for the heads of his foes to be brought before him, and when he found that of a particular enemy, he tore off his head and off the dead man's nostrils and lips with his own teeth. The man sold his country into the hands of the foreigner and sold his 13-year-old daughter for swords. A man who attempted to bequeath his kingdom to a bankrupt Norman knight in defiance of the law.
I just want to raise preliminary objections to that particular characterisation of my client, Judge. There's no question that Strongbow is in fact bankrupt, and I would prefer if the witness withdrew that particular comment.
Judge, Mr. O'Higgins will have the opportunity to cross-examine the witness, and he can put whatever questions he likes, as I no doubt he will at great length, I'm sure.
Very well. Just continue on.
Thank you, Judge. Where were you when your wife was kidnapped?
I was on pilgrimage.
You were on pilgrimage, a Christian king doing your Christian duty, while Diarmuid, King of Leinster, raided your territory and kidnapped your wife. I've nothing further, Judge. Please answer any questions Mr. O'Higgins may have for you, or Mr. Prasifka.
Yes, just a few very brief questions. I want to maybe put a different perspective on this entire episode. So what had Diarmuid MacMurrough or his people done to deserve your attack in 1128? I understand that you did harm to a man who had done none to you, to a king who was barely 18 years old, and who had lost a father and brothers. You killed cattle and burned all before you, ensuring that the people of Leinster starved. Why?
I was following orders.
You were following orders. Did you set out to subdue and humiliate Diarmuid MacMurrough?
I did as the king directed.
Let's move on. You've told this inquiry that your marriage to Dervorgilla was to build peace between your kingdom and that of Meath. Despite that, you stood by while the High King imposed his son Conor as King of Meath, and you then accepted a portion of Meath for yourself. Do you think that shows loyalty to your father-in-law, the King of Meath?
He had fallen out of favour with the High King. That was a foolish thing to do. The Meath men then killed the High King's son O'Connor, and that was even a more foolish thing to do. I don't pledge my loyalty to fools. By the way, I seem to recall that your client got a share of the spoils too when Meath was divided.
Well, you haven't always shown allegiance to the High King, have you? Have you not conspired against him, resented his position?
On the contrary, he had conspired against me. He attacked me in 1152, raided my lands and deposed me. And who marched beside him on the campaign? Diarmuid MacMurrough. I may forgive the High King who restored me in due course, but I will not forgive MacMurrough. Did I mention he kidnapped my wife at the same time?
Well, I believe you may have mentioned it, yes. You say your wife was kidnapped by Diarmuid MacMurrough, that she was with him kicking and screaming. However, I have another witness who has testified already that she went quite willingly, that in fact she was in love with Diarmuid.
I don't think you quite understand the position. It is of no relevance who my wife loved or didn't love. She was my wife. She was taken away without my permission, and I believe her brother and me to have been complicit in this also. You cannot simply set aside the husband's rights like this. This was an illegal act, and under the law I have a right to compensation. Diarmuid MacMurrough refused to pay compensation, and he left me dishonoured for 14 years.
But you did eventually get your wife back, didn't you?
When he was finished with her, yes. He sent her back. Did he think it was just renting my wife then? Does that make it better?
I've no further questions.
Do you want to ask me anything else?
No, no further questions.
Can I step down?
You may. Thank you.
Thank you.
Judge, I think the peasants are getting hungry, so perhaps we might adjourn until 2:15.
Very good. Very good.